Don't make New Year's resolutions this year. Instead, plan strategically and then bask in your own success. You know, 2/3 of people are going to make New Year's resolutions, and sadly, less than 10% of them are going to achieve them. You know, why are we so bad at this? I guess there's probably a lot of reasons, but I think one of the reasons is that, we in our modern lifestyle are receiving an unprecedented level of messaging, telling us what others think we should want, need, or what we should be. We're cheered for following the trend rather than striking out on our own. So this year, change that. Write your own story. Here's 4 things you can do right now towards achieving that. Okay? First of all, here's 4 things that I can share with you that are total gold. First of all, reflect on the past year's achievements. Secondly, understand your why before you decide what you're going to do in the coming year. Number 3, this is so important. Remind yourself that the journey is so much more important than the destination. And number 4, accept my personal invitation to you to participate in my Your Best Year Ever webinar. Okay? So number 1, reflect on the past year's achievements. It's so easy to just sit here and go, oh yeah, well, last year was last year and now I'm moving on, and not really reflect on all the things you did. You did a lot. You did a lot of things well. You achieved a lot of great things. Now, here's the thing about it, is that if you don't do that, you're really missing out on a big opportunity. When you set out to do something, and it creates a learning path in your brain, okay? It's like breaking trail through the forest for the first time. And when you succeed, your mind automatically makes that path a little bit clearer. Like if you keep walking on that path in the forest, it gets more and more clear about where it is. Where's the safe route? Where's the one that's going to take you to the destination that you want? And then in the future, when you go back to that path and you again succeed with it, the path just becomes more and more permanent. And it becomes a reliable trail through the forest that we can rely on and trust to help us get to where we want to go, right? So you don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Early in my career, I took total quality training, which was looking at how to improve process in manufacturing. And they talked about this as developing a reliable method, identifying the steps that if you repeat over and over and over again, reliably gets you the outcome that you're reaching for. It totally works. Now, here's something that you might not think about is don't just think about what you did, write it down on paper. When you write it down, it just makes that groove in your brain, that path, it makes it that much more permanent and clear. We'll talk more about the power of writing it down in my Your Best Year Ever webinar. Now, the second thing you should do, number 2, is understand your why first before you decide what you're going to do. Okay? So I think this is actually why most people fail at their New Year's resolutions, because they commit to something like a what, like I'm going to make more money. And they don't know, or they're not thinking about why. Why do they want to do that? And maybe the reason they want to do that is to reduce stress. They don't want to have to worry about payments. So they want to make more money so things are a little bit easier, right? But committing to just make more money could actually increase your stress if you're not connecting your goals and your strategies to that key priority of reducing it. You could end up just working more or working harder. And that's not necessarily going to reduce your stress. Maybe you're just going to be more burnt out. So then you're going to quit that and fail. As leadership expert Michael Hyatt says so eloquently, we only pursue goals that are really important to us. So here's some wisdom that you can take to the bank. Your key priorities define your why. You see all these things all the time. People say, figure out your why. Well, how do you do that? Your key priorities define them. You can't know what you want until you know why you want it. Really, I mean, it's it's what most of us sort of skip this step. It kind of seems obvious, and so we skip past it, but it's really our undoing if we do. And maybe that's why true success seems to belong to so few. Remember, less than 10% of us are going to achieve our New Year's resolutions. Now, there's a bunch of emerging research out there pointing to the idea that the number one reason for success is perseverance. Entrepreneur Gary Vaynerchuk, have you ever watched him? Look up Gary V. And anyways, very successful entrepreneur. He totally personifies this and implores anybody that will listen to him to get this part right. Here's what Gary says. I'm just looking at my notes. There are about 1 million other things that could stop success in its tracks. There are 1 million reasons why not, but there's only one good reason why, which is this. You just have to persevere. Okay, so you got to persevere. Psychologist Angela Lee Duckworth did a bunch of research on this as well, and she shared the results in her TED Talk. She called it grit. So she went to her graduate school, and part of her research was to try to find out who succeeds and who does not and why. So she conducted research at West Point Military Academy. She went to a whole bunch of other private schools, big companies, and from these very different contexts concluded that there's really only one reason across all of those situations. The main number one reason that emerges for people's success is what she called grit, which was having the passion and the persistence to achieve long-term goals. Okay, so you got to, dig in and hold on. Well, what does it take to accomplish those goals? Some people think it's, luck or smarts or good looks or how many people you have on your social media network. No, it's not any of those. The number one reason for success is persistence. Okay, now here's the gold. You only persevere through the tough times if what you are trying to achieve is something that is personally important to you. You're only going to persevere through the tough times if it's something that's personally important to you. And guess what? That's your why, which is defined by your key priorities. I'll show you how to figure out what your key priorities are in my Your Best Year Ever webinar. All right, the third thing that you should do right now is remind yourself that the journey is so much more important than the destination. A minister once told me very wisely that life is scattered with a few precious moments that don't last very long. It's totally true. I think of those as little destinations, the little spots along the way as you're going along. They're little destinations, but it's really the journey that matters. It's the traveling there. That's where it's all at. And you hear this all the time, it's the journey, not the destination. Well, what does that mean? Let me just give you a very, very simple example, I think, that makes it really clear. Say you want to accomplish 4 things this year. You got 4 big goals. They're big goals. They're so big that when you achieve them, you promise yourself you're going to take an entire week off, okay? We're going to take an entire week off to celebrate each one of them. Wouldn't that be cool? Just chilling out and kicking back. Maybe you got your feet up by the pool. Just celebrating achievement of your goal for an entire week. Wow, that sounds awesome. So you did that. Guess what? All of that celebration time is only 8% of your year. Truth. 92% of your time is the traveling there. It's the journey. That's where the value is. I train and run for destination runs. If you've been following me, you know that we just ran the New York City Marathon last November. Fantastic. Huge goal, right? And yeah, there was a big celebration and it lasted for about a few days. The pride of doing that will stay with me forever. There's no doubt about that. But the destination, the event, it's really short-lived. It's just a few days. The real payoff for me was the training. And sometimes people look at me weird when I say that, but it's true. Yeah, the 700 kilometers, the hours, the days, the weeks out there running by myself, being present, improving my fitness, just having some clearing time in my mind. That's where all the value is for me. Going and running the marathon is like, it's the cherry on top of the cake, but it's really the cake that I'm after, right? So if you revel in the journey, it's way more rewarding. And because it's more rewarding and you're enjoying it, you're so much more likely to be successful because you're going to be persistent. You're going to enjoy what you're doing. You and I are going to dig in a little bit deeper into this in my Your Best Year Ever webinar, which leads me to point number 4 of things you should do right now. And that is register to participate in my Your Best Year Ever webinar. Okay, in the next year, take control. Write your own story. And I invite you to be my personal guest in this Your Best Year Ever webinar, no charge. Okay, all you need to do is invest a little less than 1 hour of your time. That's it. Now, I've put the link here. Just click on it and register for the webinar. It's that simple. In the webinar, I'm going to show you how to envision a future something that you want. Then identify how your personal key priorities can connect to that so that you understand your why. From there, we're going to develop a short-term goal, the what. And we're going to make sure it's connected to your why because we want you to be successful, right? You only do the things that are really personally important to you. Then we're going to work out some main strategies you're going to use to achieve that goal. I mean, this isn't a webinar where you just sit there and stare blindly at the screen. Like, you're going to have to do a little bit of work, but you're going to walk away ready to go to start achieving success. That's pretty cool, don't you think? And then the last step in the webinar is we're going to use our calendars to schedule the actions that you need to achieve your goal. Awesome. If you decide to go farther, I'm going to give you some concrete actions at the end of the webinar so that you can do that. Really, what have you got to lose except the future that you want? So go now, register for my Your Best Year Ever webinar. And I'm going to see you in there.